Hey guys, Roman Tressa here with Mission Forge, and today guys we're starting part 2 of this video. So originally this was supposed to be one long video, so I'm just interjecting this introduction into the beginning of this video, which is, separate, but that's okay. I just realized that it's just wiser to separate in different groups with that. So that guys, let's go ahead and get started with this part 2 of building our Gunslinger Knife. And what we're using is a 1" by 3/16, so it's just 1 inch wide by 3/16 thick mild steel. You can just pick it up at a Home Depot or anything like that. And I got it cut to about just over 2 inches, like 2¼ inch. So that way, when I grind it down and stuff like that, it should be fine. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna go ahead and measure it out. And even though it's 1 inch, I need to measure out exactly where the middle is going to be, because I need to put center punches on here. Because what we're gonna do is we're gonna be drilling a bunch of holes, and we're gonna try to get the holes as close together as possible, so that way we can go ahead and put the notch in there. Now, you can buy guards that are already pre-made and stuff like that, and that is just world easier, but I have nothing against that, and I'm kind of I like to do it myself if I can, and all the other ones I've done that with. And this part probably takes the longest, so I'm going to go ahead, measure it out. I'm going to put the center punch in here. I got to measure out the width of the tang on here. Now you notice that the shoulders here, all right, I left, obviously it's wider than the tang. So, but the problem we have is on these handles here, you're gonna notice that I got a nice little swoop here, right? Well, this part is actually wider than it is down here. The guard is gonna want to be able to slide up and down like that, so that's gonna make it a little bit challenging, but nonetheless, we'll get through it together. So next, I'm going to go ahead and drill my holes in this thing here. So I'm going to measure it out, find the middle of it, make a lot of measurements, and then center punch where I want my holes to be. Okay, so here's what I did next. I went ahead and I center punched 2 spots on this, which is the cross guard, and then I drilled the 2 holes on the end already. Now what I went ahead and did was in between the holes, because I want to see approximately how wide the holes are going to look, I then did center punches in between them, so that hopefully when I drill the holes to close enough, instead of having just like a hole and then I gotta file in between there, I'm hoping the holes will be close enough. If I do have to file, it's not a lot, but that they kind of overlap so that there's already a space, so it makes it so much easier. That's the goal. Of course, when I was doing center punch, what happened? I actually broke my center punch. Go figure. Also, when you are drilling these holes, make sure it's about 1 size smaller than the thickness of the blade itself. So if this is 1/8 of an inch, you want to go smaller, like, what would I use, 7/64 or something like that? Not a 7/64. Yeah, I use 7/64, because that's just 1 size smaller. It's not going to fit across there. You're going to have to file it, but if you use 1/8 of an inch and it fits fine, great, but what's going to happen is, even though I'm going to try really hard to make sure this line is perfectly straight, it's not gonna be. So by filing it slowly, whatever, I'm gonna have a better chance of having a nice snugger fit on here, and not so much have big gaps and holes in the way. So it's just a better fit. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go with my drill press, and I'm gonna start pressing or drilling all the holes in there, and we'll go from there. So nothing's really changed about this video, about just full of stupid mistakes. I mean, besides me just messing up things I've done now several times, I forgot to record an entire section of me making the guard here. So first thing I want to point out is that so I'm going to try to explain it and demonstrate it a little bit for you guys, so you see what I had to do it. All right, and I didn't use this piece here. You'll see in a minute the piece I did use. So the first thing is I told you I put 2 holes here, and I drilled a bunch of holes. As you can see, I did that. Now the reason I can't use this one, and I messed up, is because the holes, if you look at how awesome I did, it kind of curves. You know, this side, you know, this part sticks way too far out, and that's actually the big one. I could work with it if it, you know, by grinding it almost looks straight, but this little section here was just too far out, and I can't use that. So, but as you can see here with the holes I was trying to do, where I put I drilled a bunch of holes here, so you can see the little pieces that go in between the little tiny small pieces there. Well, we would have to file those out. Now, what I tend to do, and I'll go ahead and show you guys on this anyway, so you have an idea, is I have milling bits, and I'll take a milling bit and then I'll attach it to the drill press here, and then I will try to start slowly, you know, cutting away at it just a little bit at a time until those pieces are gone. Then I'll put it to the vise and then I'll hit it with a file. If you don't have a milling bit, you can go ahead and use a needle file. You would put it in there, and then, like I said, you would put it on your vise. And it is a lot easier, by the way, when the piece of metal is still attached to the long parent bar. What you do is you get in there with your needle files, and then you just do this over and over again, and you just have to have a lot of patience. So if you don't have the milling bits that you can do that with, and milling bits are definitely better with a mill, mind you. It will go faster than this. Now, another tool you can use is a rotary tool, so like a Dremel or something like that, with a grinding bit that can fit inside there, and that will work pretty quickly as well. So that's what I was doing. So I did that, but like I said, I went over here to the drill press, and let me get it set up so you can see what I did. Now, if you have a mill, you would clamp this down into like a vise for a mill, and then you would just move this into the mill itself and stay still. Because I don't have that option, I'm doing it in a very somewhat dangerous-ish way, and that is holding it. Again, this is bad practice, okay? I'll sometimes just press it against the side here. And just like that, I extended the hole. Yeah, let's see if I can show you better. But I extended the hole there, and that's all I'll do is I'll just go through every single one of these holes and just do that. You see, I got a nice long cut now. So, while this is the wrong guard, but I wanted to show you the process I go through to make it happen. So that's what I do. Now, after that, you know, if this was a nice straight line, I actually would keep this then. But then once I get it all cut through like that using the mill, I then put it back in the clamp, and then I'll hit it with a flat file. So one of my files was 1/8 of an inch thick, so I can kind of get it with that. But the problem though is that it will just make it a little, because the teeth are actually, with the teeth of the file, it actually is wider than the blade. So what I would recommend you use is a nice small flat file like this. And it does have a little point on there, but I do have ones that's flat. So that way, what I'll do is I'll go in with the mill I'll remove any rough edges that's in there with the mill, but then I hit it with the flat file. I will clamp it, and I just file a little bit at a time, and then I keep fitting and fitting and fitting on the knife. So that's generally how I do it. So before I had these mills, what I was trying doing all that with the drill bit, and it does work a little bit, but you're going to eat through your drill bits. It's better to spend a few bucks and buy some mills, you know. They're not real great for our high carbon. This is just like a high speed metal deal, so it works on mild steel and brass and stuff. So worth getting that. If you don't have that, then just do what I did initially, which is drill a bunch of holes, and then you hit it with the file. Now there is one other trick, which I did do a little bit, and that is you get yourself cold chisel. And then I would go in there, and then I would chisel. I would then strike this with a hammer, of course, on my anvil. Strike it on one side, and then I would turn around and strike it to the other. Because one or two things is going to happen is either A, I'm going to punch through this just enough so that, as you can see, the tip of this sticks through, that I don't then have to sit there and try to file all that down. Or I'm going to compress it and break it enough so that when I do use the mills or files, it actually just does it quicker. So, I mean, there's various ways that you can go ahead and slot a guard. And this one was, I think, my third attempt doing the guard. This knife has fought me so far non-stop. It mostly is my fault because I'm just being careless. But this is what I did to slot the guard. So now we're going to go ahead back to where you see me working on it. It's the full bar. It's nice and straight, and it fits. It's exactly what I did. Okay, so got it pretty much where it needs to be. Oops. And now it goes through. As you see, when I was telling you, it's going to have that little bit of movement there. Well, if I take this off here. So if I put this on the guard here, this is how it's pretty much going to set in there. Now, one of the problems I have is just because, you know, unfortunately, you'll see that this has movement up or down, and that's just because, you know, unfortunately, the pommel area of the tang is actually wider than the actual where the guard sits. So now, all I gotta do is I'm gonna cut it off from here. Then I'm gonna get this flat on my grinder. I'll get this side flat because it's actually concaved a little bit. So I'm gonna flatten this side out and flatten this side out so it's nice and flat. And then it'll be able to sit on there. We'll then finish shaping this up where it needs to be. And then after that, we'll go ahead and work on the handle. Okay, so now we got the guard pretty flat, not 100% flat and shaped, and you see it's got it rounded here and round on this side, and I got it down to 220 grit on the belt here. Now it's not 100% flat. If I wanted 100% flat, I would put on the platen or another flat thing with some sandpaper, and I would do it by hand. Because there is, if I look on this, I can see some variations, like which side's a little bigger here and there and stuff like that. But for this particular knife, that's not necessarily important because we are going for a used look, a worn look, all this other fun stuff. So that's not necessarily important. Also, I noticed that the part of the handle that I wanted to be longer isn't as long as I would like. So, for example, this portion here that would normally cover the fingers down here, I actually wanted a little longer, but that's okay. You know, like I said, every one of these knives is a unique knife as it is, so it's fairly similar. But okay, so we're gonna call it good for today on this particular build portion here. So this is the end of part 2 of my build here. With that, guys, hopefully you found this informational. I know this is not the most exciting portion of the build. It's just the guard, and it's probably going to be still a fairly long video. I was trying to get in depth so you guys can really see what it takes to do one of these guards. You know, I know it can be kind of long-winded, especially how I just jabber on, so I apologize for that. But with that, guys, hopefully you found this video somewhat helpful and, you know, mildly entertaining, hopefully. If you have, go ahead, hit that like button. Also, in comments or suggestions, leave down below. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click that bell for more notifications. With that, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.